Some of you know the answer to this already, but don't spoil it for everyone. What links this stone slab on the beach at Torryburn with a greyhound on it, this rather nice building in the heart of the village of Culross, this typical Fife village toll booth, and this unassuming stretch of coastline? To find the answer to that question, come with me as I take a trip into Scotland's dark, murky and mysterious past. De Niro, we're here for some serious historical research, not for zoomies, so stop it. And there's children playing on the beach along there, so definitely no zoomies. As you skim across Scotland's coastline, there are lots of wee bits of history dotted about, but we're here to look at one in particular. Why is this massive stone slab here on the foreshore? Is it there to hold something down, perhaps? So as you probably guessed, that slab is the grave of a witch. Well, guessed or saw a couple of weeks ago on the channel. But that is the grave of Lilias Edie, who died in 1704, and she actually died before she could be executed, and because she wasn't executed and then burnt, they thought, oh no, she could come back, and that's why she is still down there. So the significance of that is she's buried between high tide and low tide, so she could not rise from the dead. That is what they believed, and just in case she could, they put that massive stone slab on top, just to make doubly sure that she didn't rise from the grave. Although actually, to spoil the story a little bit, she's not down there. She was dug up in the 1800s, but she still gets quite a lot of visitors, judging by all the footprints in the mud. Whatever the men of faith put that poor woman through, I suppose at least she has a grave. That thing with most of the witches in Scotland is they were killed quite gruesomely, but then they were burnt, so there is no graves for any of the other witches in Scotland. That's the only one for which we have a name. Which we have a name. I've got to stop saying witch. Witch, the wicked witch. It's a pity the weather's not cooperating with the theme by being all dark and mysterious. It's quite a nice day for October in Scotland. And De Niro, the gravehound, unfortunately now has very, very muddy paws. Oh dear. I was wise this time. Usually I go with my trainers and complain about getting wet feet. Today, I've got my wellies on. My witch hunting wellies. If you want to find out more about how these poor people were treated by the men of the cloth, then there's lots and lots of stuff on the internet about it. I'm not going to get into too much gruesome detail here. Let's just say a lot of them were not treated very kindly, but also a lot of them were let off. It's really strange. It was a proper legal process. Somebody was accused of witchcraft. In a lot of cases, they're actually taken across to Edinburgh to be tried properly in court, for witchcraft. It's just different times, different mindsets, different, yeah. Fife was a hotbed of this persecution of people accused of being witches, and from a few trials in the early days, it grew and grew until virtually no village in the whole county was exempt. There were witches everywhere, if you believed the witch hunters. Well, after more driving about lost than I want to admit to, this is the second plaque. In my defence, it said it was under a sign, but it is flat on the ground, so you can't see it from the road. Anyway, it says Lilias was accused of lying with the devil. So there. Did she lie with the devil? Almost definitely not. It's really difficult to believe so much superstition and sort of inhumanity happening in places that look like this. I know that's a ridiculous thing to say, but you know what I mean. Everywhere you go, I suppose, has got a dark side if you go back far enough. Miners in 17th century Scotland worked in mining servitude, basically slavery. A law from, I think, 1606 gave mine owners power to apprehend vagabonds and sturdy beggars and put them to labour. And once you were enslaved in a mine, you didn't get out, and your family didn't get out either. It was 1799 that the law was finally changed. In Scotland, the last people to indulge in slavery were the people who owned the coal mines, who were often also the landowners. So there's a wee thing about the Weems family and the Hopton family that you probably didn't know. This, in case you didn't recognise it from a million other YouTube videos, is Culross, a little town of Culross, and we are here because of its association with this week's theme of witchcraft. And not because there's a really nice cafe, but if I go there without Bex, I'll definitely get the look. So we'll come back here with Bex and do a proper tour of the palace and the abbey. It is a really, really pretty place. I know it's overdone to death with tourists, but it's still it's a nice place to come. We'll probably come back in the winter when it's not quite as busy. Now, as far as I can find out from the internet, the witch's plaque in Culross is under the information board at the bus stop facing the town hall, so I wonder if it used to be... now you think that might have been it there and it has been stolen. No idea. Let's see if we can find the town hall. I think that's the town hall over there, so yeah, the plaque has been nicked. Oh well, here's a picture of it from the internet. De Niro is dying to explore Culross, but we'll have to come back with Bex. Not that there's a great deal to see here. I mean, it's pretty boring. There's nothing you'd fancy looking at, I don't think. It's not bad. We will come and do all of the touristy things at some point, but as I said, today is a witchy day. De Niro is looking which way to go. Beware of the dog. There he is there, and he's fine. De Niro, this would be a lot better as a spooky episode if you would stop sniffing everything. Oh, look at his big scary shadow though. Oh. Depending on who you believe, up to 600 people were executed in Fife for being witches, which was quite a large proportion of the population at that time. So we're going to head now from Culross, and we're going to go along the coast to the East Nuke, where there's a wee village of Crail. Visited there before in a previous episode if you want to go and check that out, but today we're going to go and follow in the footsteps of the witches. So the suspected witches would be taken from this building, which is the toll booth, down this street to the seaside for a wee excursion. They like taking witches on a wee excursion to the seaside. Very probably down streets lined with a baying mob. In fact, it probably looked very much like the scene in Monty Python. Quite frankly, their way of telling if someone was a witch is just as efficient as anybody else's. Up behind that wall is the site of Crail Castle. That house there was built in 1782. And down here is where they would have brought the witches to find out if they were, the alleged witches to find out if they were actually witches. Down here is Maggie Ingall's Hole, and that is where the witch trials were carried out. And the witch trials were very scientific and very, very legally watertight, so to speak. What you do is you take your witch and you put her in the pool. And if she drowns, then obviously she's innocent, obviously. But if she doesn't drown, then she's a witch, so you can burn her. It's just mad. So tell me, how is that any cleverer than Monty Python's "if she weighs the same as a duck, then she's made of wood and therefore a witch"? And who was Maggie Ingalls? Well, I've got no idea, I can't find out, but she was probably somebody accused of being a witch, believe it or not. And here's proof. If you don't believe all the stuff about witches and the devil, then there is proof that it happened, because the devil was trying to throw rocks at the church over there from an island out in the River Forth, and this is a rock that he threw, but it didn't quite make it. But if you don't believe that the devil threw this, then look, there's his hoof print there, so that was his cloven hand that he threw this rock with. The weather has certainly gone a lot more witchy, for want of a better word. As I was trying to say earlier, but I kept getting interrupted by traffic, the bar for being accused of a witch was actually set really low, because if you didn't like somebody, you'd just say, oh, that person there put bad thoughts into my head, or made me have a nightmare, and that's it, automatically a witch. I suppose it helped if it was somebody that nobody really liked anyway, maybe old women that lived out on their own that people weren't really sure about. It was, I suppose it was a pastime for the locals, having a good witch burning. As far as I can find out, nowhere in Scotland was exempt from this craze for finding witches. Even the nation's beautiful and enlightened capital, which may not have been quite so beautiful at that point, to be fair, was well known for its attitude towards the dreaded witches. The witch hunts weren't just for the yokels of Fife. We've come across to Edinburgh, which is far too busy and I don't like it, to look at this. This is the witches' well, and near this point 300 people were executed for witchcraft. There is a lot of history under the ground here. That is not the most cheerful bit. Up in front of us, there's a view of the castle there. There's a bit of cheer up. That is Edinburgh Castle, in case you didn't know already. The whole witch hunting craze was kind of a mishmash of church and state, because the king thought that witchcraft was akin to Satanism, so he wanted all the witches removed. And the Church of Scotland were only too happy to help. People were denounced for, as we said before, sometimes almost nothing. Giving somebody a bad dream, you were a witch and you were put on trial. And witchcraft was illegal, so if you were found guilty, you were usually executed, as we said earlier. That is usually, but not always. A lot of the witch trials happened in the little places that we've seen, the toll booths and that in the villages, but some of them were actually tried properly in a proper court with proper legal representation. A lot of people were let off. I was just doing some research, which surprised me as much as it surprises you, and there was actually several witches that said, right, you can't hold me in here any longer, I demand a trial. So they were brought across to Edinburgh and put on trial. There's probably stories like this from everywhere, but Pitt and Weem seemed to be one of the worst, because there it was the local minister seemed to have a bit of a grudge against their old lady, because he had her on trial more than once and tortured her, and eventually she was let go and he was told to stop it, but he didn't. He put her on trial again. I don't believe I'm battling down the Royal Mile for this. I really, really don't like this part of Edinburgh when it's this busy, and it's pretty much always this busy. We're up at the very top of the Royal Mile. We're now going to take a walk down and find some more witchy places for you. This restaurant has got a witchy reference. It's called The Witchery, and it's quite famous and quite good, and very expensive, but quite good. Over there they've got a couple of birds of prey. I'm sure the birds are loving it out here today. And there's There's a man making a lot of noise. A lot of the witch hunting was headquartered from there. That is the General Assembly Hall for the Church of Scotland. That was their headquarters. Actually, it still is their headquarters. That over there is St Giles Cathedral. We've shown you before, and we might show you again one day, but not today. And this is Parliament Square, and this is where laws were made and where lawyers hung out, and this is where the persecution of the witches was really codified, because the King James, said, I don't like witches, and I think being a witch should be illegal. So they actually drafted civil laws that were then sort of enforced by the clergy and by the secular authorities. It was a bit of a free-for-all, I think. It's actually really hard to get a figure of how many witches were killed, how many were burnt at the stake, but the best I can do is say about 4,000 people were charged and up to 1,500 were executed, so that's quite a lot. It was per capita, I think Scotland got a bit carried away compared to other countries. Oh good, time for a coffee. Which one shall I have to keep the witch references going? But there's a great big queue, so I won't bother. There can't be many streets left in the world that are as packed with history as Edinburgh's Royal Mile. Very nice, all the way down there to Holyrood Palace, but we are not staying on the Royal Mile, we are going to head downhill now. That up there is the back side of the Royal Mile where we just were, and down here is quite a nice park, but it didn't used to be quite a nice park. Oh no! Fitting with this week's theme, this used to be the Nor Loch, which was a loch that was a sort of defensive thing for the Old Town up there, loch down here. It was also, as well as being defensive, it was a water source and an open sewer, and also a place to try your witches. The witches were brought down here, bound hand and foot and thrown in, and it's the old, if you drown you're innocent, and if you float you're a witch, and then we'll burn you. So yeah, it is a no-win situation, and there's also a railway line down here now, hence all the noise. Apparently the reason that they stopped doing the witch ducking in the Nor Loch is it became so polluted and so full of rubbish from the town that, yeah, if you threw anything on it, it would just sit on the surface as opposed to actually sinking. Besides, there are much more inventive ways. We're going to go and have a look at some of those now in the National Museum of Scotland. And this is the atrium of the National Museum of Scotland. It is a magnificent building, well known and well loved by almost everybody in the city. But we're going to go through to the new bit, the newer bit, which is monstrously ugly. How they got away with building it, I've got no idea. Anyway, we're going to go through because through there they've got this. There's obviously much more scientific ways of finding out if somebody is a witch than throwing them in the sea and seeing if they drown. Oh yes, what you can do is you can use some of these wonderful implements to inflict pain on them until they eventually confess. And I would imagine after a few hours with these things around your thumbs, you would definitely be just confessing to anything, so they would take them off. And they pretty soon figured out that sleep deprivation was a great way to get anybody to confess to anything. This is a witch's collar, and well, you can imagine where it goes and what it does. That would keep you awake quite effectively, I would imagine. And there's an old woodcut of King James VI himself presiding over an obviously very fair trial of some witches. And if you wonder how I know that, I am reading it on that sign. Should you ever find yourself in Edinburgh, this museum is pretty much an essential visit. It is a really, really cool thing. It's got all sorts of stuff. There's loads of things for the kiddies as well, like this. They could have a quick game on this and see who loses their head the fastest. But now, through the magic of television, we're leaving the nation's capital city behind and heading for Ayr, where we're going to find out about Tam O'Shanter. No, not De Niro's hat. Tam O'Shanter, the famous poem by Robbie Burns, which is where a lot of us got our first real introduction to the world of witches, with the bonus that it's quite a nice wee museum. Look at that. What a lovely pair of jugs. That is the best pair of jugs that I've seen so far this morning. And, I'm not being rude, look, it says there, pair of jugs. We've come to Roselle House where they've got a Tam O'Shanter exhibition, so let's go and look at the Tam O'Shanter. It is quite a famous poem.
I'm trying to see when these were actually painted.
Yeah, no, I can't see the Gaudi collection was bought by the council in the year 2000, so before then, but yeah, no idea. But they are really good. So there is Tam at the market, that's Tam O'Shanter, and that's his horse Meg, who features quite prominently in the tale, get it? I'll explain that a bit later. These paintings were all done by a guy called Gaudi, and there's a whole series of them that narrate the whole poem. They're really smart. I've never actually seen them before, but they are really cool. And there is a statue of Robert Burns. I want a job being that statue so I can go boo to people that come in for a wee look. I don't want to bore you all with museum artefacts, but that is an oak chair that is reputed to be the chair of King Robert the Bruce, which is that's quite significant for a wee thing that's sitting in the corner of this museum. I love all the wee details, like the crows. A lot of these pictures have got crows in them, either actually obviously like that or just a shadow in the corner. And there's Tam leaving the pub to go back to see his wife. That lady there is Tam's wife, Kate. So he went off to the pub with his buddies and a horse and left her
to look after the farm. There's a line I like, nursing her wrath to keep it warm.
To be fair, the Tam O'Shanter poem does go on a bit, so if you want to find out about it all for yourself, go Google it and you can have a wee read through. There's lots of Scottish words of the day in that. But now we're going to cut to the chase, literally.
Oh, and there's Tam and Meg going over the bridge, and behind them there are the witches and a naked lady, for reasons that you'll understand if you read the poem. If you don't know this Tam O'Shanter thing, go and have a read at it, because it's actually quite a good poem and quite a good story. There's Meg and Tam getting chased over the bridge. If they get over the bridge, they are safe, because as you all know, obviously, witches can't cross you over running water.
And does he make it? Well, that would be a spoiler, but you have to feel sorry for poor old Meg. But that's enough witchy stuff for now. Let's head back to Culross and try and find someone a bit more cheerful. In those trees in front of us is something for Outlander fans. That is Culross's West Church that apparently appeared in Outlander. They've got lots and lots of Outlander references down in the visitor centre down in the village. Easy to see why this isn't in use today. How would you get the coffins up? Back in the old days they would have been carried by hand, I guess. It's quite a long way from the village, a surprisingly long way from the village. I wonder what's going on there. There's some big plywood boxes. It's fenced off, all the church is fenced off with lots and lots of plywood. Are they covering things, or is that over the top of tombstones? Yes, it must be. That must be covering gravestones and monuments and stuff. Over there's some scaffolding. There's definitely been some works going on here. I'm guessing underneath that there are tabletop tombstones that you can't see anymore. Oh, what's this one here? Here's one with some writing on it, and I can see 1662. Yeah, so I bet there's some quite old stuff under there. Apparently the church dates back to the 1500s. There's another bit from the 17 something. It looks like, is that a 17 and then I don't know, looks like it's backwards C. Anyway, I've just spotted there's something in trees over here as well. Anything to do with the witches? Probably not, but let's go for a wee look. De Niro is getting brave. It's got a gate on it that's not open, but he jumped up on the side of the building. I did not bring him round here. In memory of James Dalgleish from the 18-somethings, erected by his children. Some interesting bits and pieces in there. Oh, and a ladder, just in case you want to get out in a hurry. Maybe that's a witch's ladder so they can rise from dead and get over the fence. It's quite an interesting place. I said before, if it was dark and gloomy we could make this a bit more spooky, but it's actually very nice, and all the skulls and crossbones are picked out by sunlight. Like those ones over there, and that's another, oh wow, it's another 1600s tombstone. 1690 I think that says, IM and AL, with the skull and the crossbones and the hourglass. Very nice. What a great wee place. What have you seen? You've just seen something, haven't you? What is it? There's supposed to be a Commonwealth war grave here, but I can't see it. It might be in there under cover. And another very old one, 1664. And in front of that, a snack. A bit of foraging there. That's something probably very tasty or fatal. I'm not sure which, so I'm not risking it. With a greyhound for scale, that's the grandest stone in the place. That is John Alistair Erskine Cunningham JP of Balgony, who died in 1934, and some associated hangers on. Come on, De Niro, let's go and head for somewhere more cheerful. Definitely somewhere that requires a return visit for Places for the Past episode, I think. Without the dog, because he just gets in the way. And I think he does it deliberately. Interestingly, that is a mud path. There's some cobbles down the bottom of the hill that I'll show you that I should have filmed on the way up, but I was eating a packet of crisps. And it's all cobbled here again, so there must have been a proper road here at some point. But this is the end of the cobbled road, and that's just another gate into that little graveyard, I think. Yeah, it is. I'm sure after all the witchy stuff you'll be looking for something a bit more cheerful to end on, so we're going to go and find something that is much more upbeat. This is a really pretty part of the world, and it doesn't really fit in with the theme for this week's video, does it? It's all blue skies and sunshine. Yeah, this week we've got a theme. Believe me, I'm as shocked as you are. This actually may be as far as we make it, because De Niro won't go through the swingy gate. Come on, De Niro! Come on, good boy! Come on, you can do it! Go, go, go! Yes, yes, yes! Way! I only got the camera out because he's been avoiding doing that for the last sort of 5 minutes. So as soon as he knows I'm going to embarrass him by showing this to you, I'll do it. Oh, the style. That was the enemy of the greyhound. How do we get over it? Well, that was, let's just say it wasn't very dignified for either of us. If you go into the woods today, you'll maybe see another gravestone. Actually, I don't even know if there's a gravestone here, but we'll go for a wee look. Okay, I promised you something a bit more upbeat. I think I might have failed to deliver. This is a plague grave. And what's sadder than a plague grave? It's the plague grave of 3 children. And what's sadder than the plague grave of 3 children? It's the plague grave of 3 children who all died on the same day. Ooh. September 24th, 1645, because that was the year that the plague hit Scotland. One of our many imports from Europe at that time, which made the country very prosperous, was unfortunately the plague, which wiped out half the population of Edinburgh, and nowhere was exempt. Even little Culross lost people to the plague. Some were buried on the foreshore under boulders, but those 3 children made it up here to be far enough away from the town in case they, I don't know, polluted the water supply or something. De Niro's in the huff after the aforementioned crossing of the stile. De Niro, nope, he's not even going to look at me. Probably not the first person to have this problem, so I wonder if I can lift that fence up and he'll walk under there. What do you think? Or will he just be awkward? Right, De Niro, this is either this or you have to get carried over the thing. Come on then, come on, you can do it, De Niro, come on, De Niro. No, don't go away that way, come on, highest point, come on, you can do it. Come on, De Niro, go, come on. Oh dear, that means, yeah, okay. Well, we made it, but I wish I'd bought a lighter dog. I think when we go places like this, he walks up the path, sniffing every single thing and stopping for a pee, and does the same all the way back. He's already sniffed those things, he can't have changed that much. Well, apart from the fact that he's peed on them. This could be quite a slow walk back, as they often are with De Niro. But have I got anything I'd rather be doing? No. And that's our wee Halloween special finished. That was our most ambitious episode yet in terms of miles done and places visited. We do hope you've enjoyed it. And if De Niro was hoping to get home for a wee bit peace and quiet, that dream was about to be shattered. We've got a house guest. I think we might be stealing her. Hello, Rosie. This is Rosie.
Don't speak to her.
The problem with having 2 dogs is they are double the work, demanding constant attention. Aren't you, Rosie? Constant attention. And that really is that for this week's wee episode. We do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please remember to like, subscribe and all that gubbins, and we'll see you next week for more.